All right, good morning, good afternoon, or maybe even good evening for everyone out there. Welcome and thank you for joining Function Point's webinar with a few guests here. Before we get started, I do want to let everyone know in your GoToWebinar control panel, if this is the first time you're using it, on their control panel, there is a question section. So if you have any questions at any given point, please feel free to type it in, or if you have any questions directing to any of the speakers, panelists, please do not hesitate. We will also be recording this webinar for everyone, and we will be sharing it to everyone afterwards via email, so you will be able to share with your colleagues or even relook at it if you wish. But otherwise, let's get started, and Victoria, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks so much. So let's pop into the agenda for today. So I'll do some quick introductions here in a minute. We'll talk about very briefly who Function Point is and what services we offer. And then we'll go right into the industry report findings and some Q&A from the audience. I do have two screens on my panel today. So if I'm looking over to the side, that's because I'm going between my speakers and my presentation. So
Victoria, you're just cutting in and out a little bit with your microphone. So I'm not sure what.
It was doing just fine a few minutes ago. Maybe I should.
It was doing really fine.
Yeah, I can vouch.
Yeah.
How do we sound now? Are we sounding a little bit better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Maybe I got it too excited and I spoke too quickly. I'll speak a little slower this time. Perfect. All right. So just a quick introduction to myself and Jimmy. We're part of the Function Point team. I'm the Director of Strategic Alliances and Partnerships, and Jimmy is our Director of Sales and Marketing. We've both been with the company for quite a bit, and we're excited to be here today. And then, let's introduce our speakers. Corey, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. My name is Corey Mickle. I am the president and CEO of lmno Consulting, as you can see on the screen. We are a full service agency based in Canada, in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, actually, middle of the prairies. Proud to be from here, and yeah, we're doing work with a big range of clients, executing creative and strategic work across Canada, into the US, down into Australia, with our team of 45 people in-house, and also leveraging partnerships and freelancers from around the world as well. So that's a little bit about us.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Corey. Lori, how about you?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Laurie Mikas from Second Wind. I am Chief Operating Officer. We are an organization that serves smaller to mid-sized agencies, a membership-based organization, and we strive to help agencies get knowledge, information, networking, anything they need to really help move their businesses forward. I've been at Second Wind since 1996, and there is not a lot that I haven't done here, but mostly spend my days interfacing with members, having conversations, and as our tagline says, helping them to be better.
Thanks for being here. How about you, Adam?
My name is Adam Wild. I am president of TRG Multimedia. We are a full service production studio in Cleveland, Ohio. We have just about 70 employees. We do a lot of photography, video, CGI, national broadcast production, all kind of housed in a 160,000 square foot space, which features soundstage, semi-permanent sets, and storage, and pretty much anything that we can offer for our clients just to kind of build a stronger relationship.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. In the following slides, we'll have a little bit more information about Corey, Lori, and Adam, although we're not going to go through them today. When we send out this presentation, you can read a little bit more about them, and we'll also include their contact information in case you have additional follow-up questions after the webinar. All right. So Jimmy, would you mind telling us a little bit about Function Point?
Yeah, if you're hearing Function Point for the first time, Function Point, we are an all-in-one agency management software designed specifically only for agencies, whether you're a digital, production, ad agency, that's where we serve. And our goal is really to consolidate your entire system entire business workflow into one system. But it's still made of 5 main pillars, with your CRM estimating, project management, resource management, your agency financials, and then gathering all of those data into a custom real-time business intelligence for you. So really our business model is so that we want to simplify your business management process so that you can focus what you do best, which is to be creative. So if you are looking to consolidate your silo workflow, please feel free to reach out to us after the webinar at sales@functionpoint.com, or just learn a little bit more on our website at functionpoint.com.
Here's a little bit of statistics, the background of Function Point. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to Jimmy. So let's get to the meat of why we're here today, and that is to talk about the findings from our industry report. You will be able to download the industry report after this presentation. It's about 35 pages of trends in services, specialties, and staffing. What trends from year over year profitability is looking like, billable percentages versus billability percentages, different productivity metrics and barriers to productivity, as well as some information about tech stack and trends in the software tools that are being used in order to make agencies more efficient. This year, we are going to start off talking about the trends in service demands. And just for context, the industry report, we did survey about 187 agencies that are between 5 and 200 users or people. And each of those agencies, the vast majority of them have been in operating for about 10 plus years. So let's talk about some trends in service demands. You can see here on this graphic that we have a high, medium, and low, and then a decrease, a flat, and an increase year over year. And so what we're seeing is that design and strategy, social media, and web development still have a high demand, and they're expected to increase even more year over year. Whereas our advertisements, particularly paid advertisements, are expected to drop actually a little bit year over year compared to some of the survey data we had from last year. So Corey, I'm interested to hear a little bit about what you're seeing in your agency as far as how the demand for different services is changing for your clients and what you're doing in your agency to kind of pivot with that demand.
Yeah, I'd say, kind of first and foremost, we're seeing a lot of these same things at our agency. We've been seeing a lot more from kind of projects and clients starting with the strategy phase, thinking about things like purpose branding, employee value proposition development. It's, there's so much about attracting and retaining key staff and how the brand plays a big part in that. And so, we've had a lot of projects starting in that realm and really kind of leaning into purpose, vision, mission, values, that sort of type of work. And then then transitioning into, okay, what are the kinds of execution elements that are going to be surrounding that, which oftentimes leads to, design and branding work, leading to, sometimes campaigns, and we still do a lot of campaign work for a lot of our clients, but seeing that becoming a little bit less of the percentage of overall that we've been seeing. So it's been interesting, from a social space, it's figuring out how to be efficient within that space, being able to, you can't treat, for us, we can't treat the creation of content and, kind of that fleeting moment of content that social oftentimes is. It needs to be powerful, but you also can't approach it like we have approached the advertising space in past, where you're putting so much time and effort into, all of it throughout the whole process, because something's going to be in market for months, months of time versus something being, in place. So, just the planning processes around that and making sure that our team is accustomed to working in a slightly different way for the creation of that type of work. But it's really great work to be involved in, and it's just, kind of shifting and pivoting how we're working, and kind of what those processes really entail.
Lori, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing across the different agencies that you're working with?
Yeah, and I think just kind of talking to smaller and mid-sized agencies regularly, this whole idea of strategy and being strategic with and for our clients. You know, smaller agencies live in such a fragmented world these days. I mean, marketing messages are fragmented, clients' brands are fragmented. There's all these single source providers out there where I think clients kind of, you know, pick from here and try to bring it all together under one program. And I think agencies, you know, those that understand strategy and want to get in there and build that strategy business can convince clients that, you know, it makes more sense to tie it all together with a strategic plan and then implementation after that. So I think many agencies are working very hard to be strategic with their clients to combat some of this fragmentation. And I think we all know the deeper involved you are with your clients, you know, the longer and stronger our relationships can be. So I think to get out there and to pursue strategy and planning is of utmost importance to agencies of all sizes. And the last thing I'll really say about that is strategy is primarily a time-based deliverable for agencies. There's not a lot of hard costs in the strategy and the planning act that you are doing with your agencies, with your clients. So if you can sell strategy, and you can price it and charge for it accordingly, correctly, it can be a great AGI booster for your agency because it's really pure time that you're billing there. So we see that it's growing. A lot of agencies understand these benefits financially and also helping clients bring it all together. So I agree with what Corey said in terms of, you know, the high, the medium, the low demand that we're seeing on the chart. But I think if I'm going to go to bat for anything for agencies to focus on, strategy would definitely be it.
Really good insight. Thank you so much. And speaking of pricing and costing for agencies, let's talk about some price increases that have been discussed. So in our report, we noticed that there's a very big jump from last year to this year about the number of agencies that are unsure about their price increases and what they're going to be doing with it. Even more so, most agencies, a quarter of the agencies, 24.1%, are doing a less than 5% increase and 20% are doing no increase. With the rise of inflation and you know, the overall goals as we come into a potential recession, agency owners are really looking at how they can improve their revenue. So Adam, let's talk about what TRG is doing and how they're viewing their pricing strategies in order to increase revenue over the next year.
Yeah, sure. So we were of the group that raised our prices between 5 and 10% last year in 2022. We did that in response to a lot of the different factors that we were dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So of course our freelancers, we use a lot of freelancers, they were raising their rates. We wanted to make sure that we continued our margin on them so we weren't like just breaking even or losing money on them. And of course there were just a lot of other factors. As a bigger production studio, we are building sets, so like the cost of materials was going up. We were having to deal with a lot of just delays in shipping and stuff, so we're having to pay more for that. So it felt like just around every corner we were looking at price increases that were affecting everything that we were doing. So we were pretty honest with our clients and had that conversation saying, listen, in order to continue the relationship that we have with you and give you the service that we want to give you, that we're going to have to just do a slight increase in our rates. Mostly received very, very well. I think most people, our clients, so to speak, they saw it all around them. They understood what was going on. Of course, they've got a bottom line, so they're always going to like dig in a little bit deeper and try to get the savings where they can. And we try to offer that savings by building larger, efficient solutions for them. And it kind of goes back to what Corey and Lori were saying earlier about strategy. We talk to them about how we can be more efficient and how they can work more efficient with us so we can make sure that we're doing the best work we can and spending their money as wisely as possible. So I think it goes a long way with that kind of a relationship and having to, you know, come face to face with things are getting more expensive. We're going to get more expensive, but we still want to offer you the service that we can.
And Corey, what about lmno? What is lmno's pricing strategy to increase revenue in the next year?
That's interesting. So, you know, I think part of it goes back to Lori touched on it. It's not for us. It's not about revenue. It's about AGI. And so when we're thinking about the kinds of services that we're moving towards, making sure that it's high, people power type of services that we're delivering for our clients. But we kind of have two camps. There's one in existing clients where we have contracts in place and they're long-term clients, and we've had a lot of clients that are feeling the inflationary pressures. Typically it's their revenues aren't where they need to be, so there might be cuts to their marketing budgets. Well, we're seeing a complete different story over the last year and a half. Has been their costs are increasing just like everyone else's, and their net profit, their profitability is getting pinched, and they're coming to say, hey, how can we tighten things up? How can we do things more efficiently? And so, it's a fine line to walk, but it's interesting because when we say price, is it the price of the hourly rate that we're charging? And where we've been shifting towards is really more towards value-based pricing, and it's less about the hourly rate, and it's more about the cost of what's the price to deliver this particular project or this deliverable or whatever that outcome looks like. And it's about pricing those outcomes. And again, for our new clients that are coming into the pipeline, and we've been aggressively pursuing new business this year to increase our revenue and our AGI ultimately, already, which has been good to see that there is clients out there that are still spending money, while at the same time there's lots of clients that are tightening things up. So it's an interesting balance there as well. But kind of looking at things more from a price this project versus here's the amount of time it's going to take and here's the associated hourly rates that go with it. Because it can, when you're trying to compete for business and you're comparing apples to apples, and if you've worked in this industry, well, okay, I might have an hourly rate of $100 an hour, and there might be another person that has a rate of $150 an hour. Well, how efficient are you in delivering on that project? How much time does it take? So it really doesn't reflect what the actual cost of delivering looks like. And it's been an issue that we've always had going in, and there's clients that demand to see your hourly rate card when it's really irrelevant. Like it completely doesn't matter.
Yeah, Adam, you're agreeing.
It's like this doesn't reflect anything that we're going to offer. There's no value in looking at this rate card, because what we do is build solutions, and those solutions involve all these different things on the rate card, but it's a matter of how efficient we are in executing those solutions, which really pays off in the end, where you're getting more value for the dollar. And I think that's just the thing that, yeah, rate increase or not, it's about being able to provide the value that backs it up.
Absolutely.
As you speak with more and more agencies, the conversation of value-based pricing, which can mean a lot of different things, I think, in the agency space. But a lot of what Corey and Adam are both talking about does involve an element of that value-based pricing structure. So does that align with what you're seeing across other agencies as well?
I think it does. I mean, I think this desire to be in a value-based compensation model for everyone is something that is relevant and top of mind. Can we apply it across everything we do? I think that still remains to be seen, but I think agencies are moving in that direction. Traditionally we have been a business of 1 hour at a time, and that can back us into corners unintentionally, unfortunately, with clients, as both Corey and Adam are saying. The rate card, the dollar value equal to 1 hour, what does that really represent? I do think in general, despite all of that, it is important for agencies to review their hourly rates and/or their pricing structure every year. You have to kind of sit down and reevaluate and do the math. Look at your overhead, make sure we're generating enough to cover that and leave ourselves room for profit, regardless of what your compensation structures or mechanisms might look like. So I think it is important to at least go through that math. And back to kind of the slide, am I surprised that a lot of agencies aren't willing to have that conversation with clients this this year. I'm not. I think there's a lot of conversation about the economy, and we don't want to upset clients, and we want to make sure that we're having those conversations with them when we can. And I'm glad that Adam said he did the increase last year, because I think last year was probably a better year than this year. If you find yourself in a position where you feel you haven't had any nudges in a few years, you might have to sit 2023 out just based on the economy or how clients are feeling right now. But you need to first understand, do you need to do that? And if so, how can we implement this in short order? If you're not willing to do it in 2023, you're going to have to revisit that in 2024 again and find some way to make sure your rates are increasing as needed. You wait 5-10 years, that's a bigger hit than any client is going to want to take. So incrementally, I think you have to address this every year and kind of pick your battles when you want to have those conversations with clients. But again, as Adam said, inflation is all around us. So it's not just agencies that are increasing their rates, it's materials and it's other providers. So we're not alone in these conversations with agents, with clients, I keep saying that, with clients. And I think you have to make sure that you're addressing this on a regular basis.
So as we look at, speaking of costs going up, let's talk about staff and setting. So one of the things that we noticed in our report is that owners are feeling like increasing salary demands is the #1 reason for staff turnover. However, when we surveyed the employees of those agencies, we actually saw that salary was #4 as far as why employees choose to stay at their agency. So I'd love to know, with talks around how we can keep our staff. Let's start with Corey. Corey, what is your team doing? What is your agency doing outside of salary in order to retain your staff through these changing times?
Yeah, it's interesting. And, anybody that's in the marketing agency, production content world, you know that margins can be tight. And, it's, we've got a lot of tech companies in our backyard, and we've got a lot of bigger organizations that have deeper pockets. And so it's about making sure that we're providing other reasons for people to want to be here. We did a lot of work around our purpose as an organization, as an agency, as a business, and kind of that being a bit of a bigger rallying cry. It was something that we didn't have fully defined before. So kind of helping people to understand how they can play a part in building something bigger than just the work that they're doing at their desk every day, plays a big part of it. And that's kind of the foundational to the cultural aspect of it. But I think too, one big thing that we've learned is kind of the coaching, development, career pathing, making sure that that's happening on a regular basis, and it's part of the culture, so that people see what the opportunities look like. Because oftentimes people see their role, and it's one of the nice things about being a larger organization than some agencies out there is there can be, whether that looks like lateral movement or whether that looks like upward movement, or there can be different kinds of experience that people are looking for. And a lot of times that goes unseen because we're just not having those conversations with our team. And so understanding where and what part they want to play, and how they see themselves fitting in. And in addition to that, I know this is another topic that we're going to get into, but just the idea of hybrid work and where that sits. And there's some challenges around kind of the billability rates and kind of what that looks like. And yet, when all these studies are out there saying that people are looking for something that's more flexible, that's something we've tried to accommodate. And still using our agency as what we like to call home base, and people flexing from the home base. And that's a work in progress. It's not something that's finished. I don't know if it ever will be, but being open to trialing different things. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Hey, there's Thirsty Thursdays, and there's breakfast things that get brought in, and we got a kick-ass coffee machine. All the little things that, like, okay, they might add up, but those aren't the important things, at least not in my mind. So, you know, and then just kind of having a strong benefits plan, having employee and family assistance programs that are in place, and making sure that people know how to use them and that they're available, because those are oftentimes things that go unseen, and you know, people don't utilize them, and it's a shame. Because if people are struggling, whether that be with their work or their home life, and there's these tools that are available, and yet it's just not something that becomes top of mind. So, you know, all the different things to help take care of the team, so that again, they feel like there's something that they're helping to contribute to. They want to be part of something bigger than the work that they're doing on a day in and day out basis.
Love what you mentioned about the benefits program and making sure that people are aware of their options there, and having a really strong, solid foundation. Adam, how about you guys? What are you guys doing to retain staff?
Yeah, so we are constantly in a state of evolution, right? So we're trying to better ourselves at all facets of what we're doing, whether it's the content creation aspect of what we're doing, or whether it's our process, or whether it's how we communicate with our employees. So we have a concerted effort to like just be engaged with all of our employees to make sure that we understand what makes them happy, right? Because there's a lot of things. I think it's easy to sit at the top and go, yeah, everyone cares about money. But in all honesty, like, there are people who have been on our staff for a long time who care more about not going corporate, where they would make a lot more money, because they do have some flexibility here. They do have people that they very much enjoy working with here. They have the lunches that we bring in all the time, but it's not necessarily, again, it's a combination of all of those things. It's not just the one thing. So I think just being engaged and making sure that all of the team understands that you look at them more as a human than you do as an employee, and you want to understand what value you can bring to their life outside of just a paycheck. I think they appreciate that, and that's where it's reciprocal, and that's where loyalty comes from, right? Loyalty isn't the person who you're paying the most who says, I've been here forever. Loyalty is the person who's like in the middle, who could probably go elsewhere and make better money, because corporations are just throwing money at people right now. It's harder for the smaller production companies and agencies like us. But you build that through nuance in conversations, caring, understanding, and just in making the commitment to stay engaged with employees.
Right. So Corey, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but we're going to talk about the billable and billability percentages and changes over 2022. We did see that the average billable percentage and the billability percentages have gone up slightly from last year to this year. We are looking at 71.7 versus the 66.95. And again, just for definition's sake, billable percentages are the number of billable hours over the number of work hours, whereas our billability percentage is actually the number of billed hours over our work hours. So I want to talk less about these numbers specifically, and more about what's impacting billable and billability percentages. And the first one, which is a bit surprising to us, was actually staff location. So throughout our survey, we asked our agencies how they worked, and of course, what their billable and billability percentages were. And we noticed a very dramatic difference in billability percentage from hybrid to fully in office and fully remote. So a variance of 8.2% in billability percentages for hybrid teams. So I'll open this up to maybe let's start with Corey. What do you think? Why do you think hybrid has such a lower billability percentage this go around?
Yeah, because I think when people are hybrid, a big part of it is it's now that offices are back to open, and it's sort of like, and for us, how we've approached it from a hybrid work standpoint is it's being available around key moments, it's key activities. It's an activity-based hybrid approach. So if there's certain key meetings, or there's client presentations, or there's brainstorming sessions, or there's different things, those are the things that we're asking our team to be in person for. If it's kind of like, if somebody's asking you to be in person, you should probably give that some pretty strong consideration to be there, because they feel like you need it. And it's about supporting, it's about figuring out what works for you, it's about figuring out what works for the teams that you're working on, it's what works for the agency. And it's kind of balancing those three aspects. And I think when there's now this bouncing in between places, there's lost productivity as a result of that, because you might be working from home in the morning and then you pop in for the afternoon, or you pop in for the morning and then you run an errand in the middle of the day. And I'm not suggesting that people aren't also investing that time back working in the mornings or the evenings or the weekends. That's not the point, because if you have good people, they're going to be managing that in the right ways. But it's very easy to have slippage in that way when people are kind of transitioning back and forth, or you were coming in for this meeting and then people are, somebody's late for the meeting and you can't get started on time, and you have 4 people in a meeting and it's a 15 or 20-minute delay. Well, that's lost productivity ultimately. And so, I believe that's a big factor in kind of the hybrid versus fully in or fully remote, and just people getting in rhythms and routines. So if you're getting up and every day and you have your routine, like we're humans, and people work well in routines and from a day-to-day basis, and if that's what is happening, and it's like, well, okay, now I go to my home office and I don't have my second screen and I don't have this setup and it's not quite the same, and I can't be as productive as I am when I have my optimal setup sitting in front of me. So there's just these little factors that add up ultimately to it doesn't surprise me to see a little bit of a shift. And then it's the balance of that with the aspect of, like I said it before, like for people want flexibility. And they don't want to be chained to their desk every day, and they want to be able to go, and whether it's working from home or a coffee shop or a park, because that's where they're inspired and that's where they do their best thinking from a creativity standpoint. We need to be able to support that. And so, what's the balance of, are you going to find the right team members if you go fully one way or fully the other? And what's the, kind of the trade-off between billability and having the right people that want to, contribute and can contribute in the right ways?
Lori, Adam, do you guys have anything that you want to add to those thoughts?
I mean, I think I concur with what Corey said. I pondered this one for a little bit after I saw the slide, because I was frankly surprised by the results. I hadn't really given it that much thought, hybrid, fully in office, remote. And I was surprised because I think a lot of agencies are really rooting for hybrid, that if it's the best of both worlds, we can have them in office and people can have some flexibility and be at home. And so I was a little bit deflated by the results, because I thought, well, now here's an argument potentially against hybrid. But I think Corey is right. There is some level of interruption or lack of, continuity when you're going from one place to the next, even if it is something as seemingly small as not having my second screen. That can cut into productivity. If you're used to having 2 screens in office and not at home, you just may not work as efficiently as you normally would. And I think with hybrid, we are asking people to come into the office to do certain things that may not be billable. Not that they're not going to do those anyway, but I think, it just may, that lack of continuity, that stopping and starting, those 2 locations, we just may not be optimizing our time as much as we can when we're in a hybrid environment.
Yeah, we're fully in office with like a commitment to flexibility. So I want to say that we default in the office, but we understand that people have lives, and especially in this day and age, we have to be committed to that flexibility. I think one of the things that we were losing were like those little hallway conversations that solve so many problems in 2 minutes when you're remote or when you're completely hybrid. Like every department here is so integrated with the other departments that we move so quickly that like if there's a 35-minute or 40-minute delay in trying to talk to someone because they're not available because of this or that and they're working remotely, we were struggling to try to keep up with all the changes that were happening on our end. So we defaulted in office, and I think that has really kind of helped as far as just keep those little communication lines a little bit clearer and a little bit more efficient, to be honest with you. So I see where I personally saw where it was with the hybrid, and certainly I also saw it with the fully remote. So that's why we kind of went back to that fully in office with the commitment to be flexible. Like, we default here. If someone's like, I just got call after call after call, can I work from home tomorrow so I can just focus on all of this? Totally. Like, it's targeted. We understand it. We're going to do it. But like, it's hard for us to go back and forth in the environment that we're working in.
I like that phrasing, the commitment to flexibility. So let's go on to the next highest impact on billable and billability percentages, and that is overservicing. So we are seeing, and I don't think any of this should be surprising to anyone, but that works in the agency space, but overservicing is still really, really high at 69.6%. So Adam, let's start with you. What actions is your agency taking in order to combat overservicing for your clients?
Well, this seems like a little bit of a self-serving question there, Victoria, because we brought you into our agency to help us better utilize our function point utilization tools. To be honest with you, yeah, we saw the overservicing. We saw some of the inefficiencies that we had going on here. And we knew that if we just dove deeper into the function point system that we'd been using for, I don't know, like, what was it, 10 years, 10 or 11 years?
10 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like, just over the years as we grew, like, we got away from certain aspects and we were started to use some other different softwares here and there for specific uses again. And what we really wanted to do was just focus all of our effort into one single software that can really offer everything that we need as far as the project management, the tracking, the invoicing, every aspect. So when we committed to bringing Victoria in, she spent a week with us and she really kind of retrained us how to better utilize our software and our systems in order to, and some of it was honestly like process change too. Like, it wasn't just how we used the software, it was how we were doing things within our company that had to change in order to fully utilize that software, to make sure that we were catching every dollar and we were tracking things and we had a better oversight over every project that was in the studio.
Yeah, that was, I didn't expect you to go there, Adam, but I appreciate the play there. Corey, how about you guys? What are you guys doing to combat overservicing?
Yeah, you know, it's a lot of the same. Like, we wanted to implement function points, so we're just about a year in. We implemented the function point solution in April of last year of 2022, and it's been really good, while at the same time we're still learning. And I think that's one of the realizations, that you can bring in a tool, but it's only a tool. It's how you utilize and kind of be able to leverage that tool that gets the benefit from it. And so, you know, for us, it's interesting. We've actually been talking about, hey, we might need some more training to come in. Now we're 10 months in, and we know what we know, but we also don't know what we don't know. And now we know enough about what we don't know to actually figure things out, ask the right questions, find the solutions. So, you know, part of it is actively monitoring, but before you even get to that project level, you know, a big part of it for us, it's the onboarding process for in particular new clients. It's setting expectations around, you know, what that looks like, and that we have scopes of work, and this is what the deliverables look like. And if we're, you know, if there's, you know, 3 curveballs that are thrown because this VP didn't like the, you know, the color purple, and that's caused the whole thing to take a shift, that we're gonna need, we need to be upfront about those sorts of scenarios, and that they happen. We, you know, don't expect them to, but they do. And then how do we best manage that? And having those conversations early, and having a great software tool that helps us to see when those overages are occurring, not at the end of the project and you go back and say, hey, we delivered this and it actually went 20% over budget, so do you have some more for us? And the answer is no. You need to be on that in real time. And if you can have that data at your fingertips, which is part of what we've been seeing the benefit of this system from past systems that we've used other integrated systems before, and they haven't had the I'd say the user experience and you know, some of the data and the reporting that is able to be provided to everybody in the agency. It's not just the senior leaders that are looking at some of these things, particularly on a project to project basis. So you know, making sure also that we're taking on the right clients. You know, if we're in a spot where, hey, we've got a little bit of a gap and we need to fill this, well, if you take on the wrong work and taking on the wrong work, and you know, working with people that maybe aren't the right cultural fit, or they don't have the same value sets, or you just know it's going to be a grind, you know, you're done before you start. And so being selective and making sure that we're vetting the kinds of clients based on the people. It's not the client, it's the people within the client's organization that we're going to be working with, and you know, having a high level of confidence that we can do good work, and it's a win-win for everybody. Because if the agency or the, you know, the partner is losing, well, then it's setting everything up for, you know, for everyone to lose. And so, you know, again, just having those upfront conversations.
Lori, I'm curious, since you do work with such a broad range of agency sizes and types and you know, systems that they're using, what are some of the benefits that you've noticed to agencies when they've really tried to focus on and tackle the over-servicing element?
Yeah, and I think over-servicing is just a part of, you know, the business that we're in. It's a natural thing to want to satisfy our clients and want to make sure that, you know, we're delivering what they need and what they're asking for. But by the same token, we're trying to be profitable businesses. So we have to keep those two things in balance. So I think it's a natural thing that over servicing happens. And, you know, the old saying goes, you know, the first step in getting help is admitting you have a problem. And I think that a lot of agencies don't, first of all, realize how much they overservice. And when they do, they don't really want to admit it because they realize what it can do to the bottom line. So I think implementing tools that allow us to monitor our work, to collect data, to track our progress, you know, provided we're starting off right with the right input and the right estimate and building against that, we have to work against those tools as well to kind of monitor our forward progress. By collecting that data in an all-in-one tool like Function Point, you know, you have the ability to really get down and look at the granular and say, how did we do on this particular project or program? And do we need to make changes? Do we need to evaluate similar work like this in the future to make sure that we're staying within an appropriate tolerance? And, you know, I think there is always a way to correct and improve and get better, but you can't if you're not doing the work to collect that data, collect that information, and utilize that. Which comes with the caveat that you have to populate your systems with worthwhile data. We can't just throw anything in there and expect to get out results or insights that are going to be helpful. So all of these things are purposeful, you know, in terms of implementing systems and using them and collecting that data, taking that data out, analyzing for improvement, gaining those insights, sharing those with the team. You know, if you do it, trust me, you'll come out the other side. And I think you'll be amazed at just even what small changes can do for the productivity and the billability of an agency. Just by kind of paying attention to a few of these things, you can make really significant changes in the bottom line and in the overall profitability, financial health of the business.
So I'm hearing you're telling agencies to at least try to address it, try to focus on it, even though it's hard, and we all know that it's a part of the industry.
All you can do is try and just try to make educated decisions, right? So like, again, having a software like Function Point, it gives us the data that we need in order to make those decisions and to understand what we're getting into, what we've gotten into, and how to correct those errors in the past, right? I just think you're never gonna be perfect. Like, as long as you're striving to get better all the time, that's the most important thing. And there's like, again, it comes down to like, is there value in over servicing this client because you know that there's going to be more work down the road? Is there, like, there's all these as a business owner, you have to make those kind of calls all the time. So it's never going to be perfect, because there are some clients where I'm like, all right, we're over hours, but like, go over hours because this is great and I need to get this in order to get this next bigger project that I know is right around the corner, that I'm having conversations with them. So like, it's all about the build and understanding, based on conversations or just relationships, who your client is and what value they can add to your company, as opposed to just doing project by project basis.
Yep, absolutely.
I want to ask one more question in regard to overservicing, and that is, when it comes to staff morale and staff perspective on how you serve clients, how does overservicing for your teams influence, in a positive or negative or neutral way, the way that your team is feeling about a particular client?
I will say that I actually think it depends more on the client, because I think there are clients that we have overserviced that were super gracious and told us how much they loved everything, and my team was over the moon about it and they would do it again. But there are other clients who just sometimes feel like they don't respect it at all and they don't understand it, and I feel like that's where the morale kind of sinks a little bit. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's less from management and less from my side of the picture than it is from, and I guess it's up to me to understand who that client is so I can protect them from those kind of moments when that does happen. But I do think that it's more client related than anything. And I don't, Corey, do you see the same thing, Laurie?
For sure. I mean, you got those clients who come to demand it and expect it, and that can be very demoralizing and draining, I think, on many team members. So they don't, really feel that, they feel like it's expected. So yeah, Corey, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a relationship game. That's the world that we live in. And if we've got strong relationships with those clients, and it's a two-way street, and it's like, hey, we might need something for this particular project, but we know that we're going to get that back over here, and that's a part of it. But I think too, it's recognizing, a lot of times it can feel like over servicing to the team working on it because there's last minute requests and there's lots of things coming in, when in reality it's not, because we're charging them for it. It might be a struggle to get the work done. It's last minute. And it's not the most fun work that we do, but if we're getting compensated fairly for it, is it really over servicing, or is it going above and beyond to service that client the way that we need and they need in order to move their business forward? So, there's a fine balance in there, that you need to, I think, just be aware of, because it can hurt the morale of the team. But it's like, well, if we know that that's contributing to the success of the business, it's, again, as much as setting expectations, talked about that from an overservicing with the client, setting the expectations with the team to say, hey, this is some of the needs and the requirements for this work, and there's going to be these last minute things that come in, and that's a part of what we do. Do we want it to be the everyday norm? No, that's not fun. And that's the balance of finding where that is, because then it becomes more of a process, an efficiency thing, and how do we have these conversations so that things are happening on the right times, not the 11th hour on a continual basis. So to your point, Laurie, managing those expectations of what that looks like.
Yeah, good point, Corey.
Yeah, very nice. All right, so let's talk about the last element of billability and what's impacting them. And I want to point out this big number here, the 28,500. So we realized from our survey that agencies with manual or siloed technology stacks are losing over 185 billable hours on average, or roughly 28,500 in billability per employee yearly. That's a pretty big number for when we talk about like profitability, and we talk about the what you can do with $28,000 every per employee for your agency. So I'm curious what you've seen from your experience, and let's maybe start with Laurie here. What makes an integrated technology stack result, in your opinion, in higher billability per employee?
I mean, I think it just simply comes down to the number of, pieces of software we're touching on a daily basis. When we're using multiple tools that are in some cases redundant with one another, we've got double, triple entry, we open ourselves to errors, we have to go back, we have to correct those errors. So, in my mind, it really is just sheer waste of time. Touching so many systems when agencies should be thinking about consolidating those systems down to as few as possible with as little redundancy as possible.
When we spoke earlier, you mentioned something about the cost of a software. Can you kind of talk about what your first thoughts when you see this number are in relation to kind of how you've invested in a technology stack?
Victoria, you broke up at the beginning of that. Were you talking to me right there?
Oh, yes, I was.
Yeah. So prior to us jumping onto Function Point, again, it was very similar to what Lori was saying. Like, we had many different softwares that were all doing things. None of them were integrated within each other. There was a duplication of efforts. There was nothing that was feeding into the next aspect. So when you're jumping into utilizing a software like Function Point, it does feel daunting at first, but then as soon as you start integrating everything together and you see that one process feeds the next process, feeds the next process, feeds the next process, like, you all of a sudden start to see that money come back to you. And you see it in efficiencies, you see it in how things are working better, smoother across the board. You have better information. So this number totally makes sense to me because I've been there. I've seen this happen to my company, which is why we made the switch into a bigger integrated software like yours. It helps to keep everyone single-minded, so to speak, and not kind of spread out all over the place.
Any thoughts for you?
Yeah, for sure it is. And I think the biggest thing for us, like, as I mentioned, we shifted to Function Point in April of last year, and we were on a different integrated system. And part of the challenge was, and I think it goes back to how you utilize the system and making sure that, you have the right processes in place, you have the right training in place, it's consistently being updated so that people understand, your whole team understands what the benefits are and how that's going to benefit them. And if people are motivated to use it, for sure there's going to be massive savings to be seen. It's about how to make sure that people don't slip into old habits. And that's, we're a 45-year-old, 47-year-old agency. And, there's different habits that get formed over time, and it's really hard to break some of those. And so how do you make sure that the onboarding process is done right, that ongoing training is done right, and that there is a lot less manual activity happening and it's more automated as much as possible. No more kind of docket envelopes floating around the office. Everything's automated and tasked within the system.
Automate everything. Automate as much as you can. I mean, that's the way. Automate everything that you can so you can take everything else and be creative. Who said it at the beginning? I think was it Jimmy? Yeah. I mean, that's the best sales tool you could probably have right there. It's just like, automate all the mundane stuff that goes from tracking clients to estimating to turning those into jobs to tracking teammates and hours and all that stuff. Automate all that, make it as simple as possible so they can everyone can just focus on better servicing the clients.
Adam, we're gonna hire you next time to do our marketing pitch. Lori, any final thoughts on the billable and billability impacts that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Adam and Corey have said, coming from agencies that are, implementing this system, the results are there. I think they're undeniable. So you have to, as I said earlier, you have to have oversight, make sure that you're really giving it a good try, because again, I think you're going to see on the back end the insights and data that you need to be able to make those small changes. And, back to the kind of culture question, if we're all kind of working together in the same way, every single day. We're all headed toward a common goal. That helps with our culture as well. That helps with retention of employees. That helps with client relationships. I think sometimes, the systems that we use can support that, and oftentimes can become, the backbone of agencies and how we operate. So along with everything else that we do, I think having systems like this in place, provide a 100-fold return on investment, no problem.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All
So
right.
we do have a question from an audience around the tech stack for maybe Adam, Corey, and Lori. Feel free to jump in, but the question is, can you give a specific example of how your tech stack works in regards to function point, I guess, specifically? So maybe perhaps Adam and Corey, more directed to you guys.
Corey, go ahead.
Well, really for us, it's the backbone. So it's everything, kind of from, again, we're just getting into leveraging the CRM and really kind of the sales funnel aspect of it. But, everything from, seeing the financial metrics to, we're learning and getting better at the project management aspect and the resource planning. So we have a forward view of what's coming in, in 3 and 6 months from now, so that we can plan around that. Adam, you mentioned the use of, kind of identifying freelancers and you leveraging them when there's ebbs and flows in the work. And, it's much easier to do that if we can see what the future is going to look like. And it's not predicting what 2 years from now is, but it is predicting what, 3 and 6 months from now looks like, so that we can better plan from a capacity standpoint. And then all the reporting is coming out of the systems. So really, in addition to that we have QuickBooks, and then, we have obviously the Adobe suite, and we've got other systems to be able to do the work. But as far as managing the business, this is the tool that we use.
Yeah, and I agree with Corey 100%. I think everything, how do I put this? It's only as good as what you put into it, right? So you have to be committed to making sure that all the information goes in there. Once all the information's in there, again, it automates from every process. We have our CRM. Our CRM goes right into the estimating phase. The estimating phase is just very easy. We can either just start something from scratch, or we can just copy and paste an old estimate if it's going to be very similar. There's just multiple ways to kind of go about it. That goes right into tasking, which we've just jumped into thanks to Victoria, because again, it's only as good as how you utilize it. I mean, to be honest with you, before Victoria came, we were like, I don't know if this is the best solution for us anymore, but it turns out it wasn't the software, it was actually how we were utilizing it. So when she came, she just kind of retrained us into how to best utilize it, and it's far beyond what we had ever hoped for. But it just takes us through every single process, from estimating to tracking to watching the project go. We put creative briefs in there. We can do briefs. We can communicate with each other. We do the invoicing through there. And then Corey touched on my favorite part, which is the data and the reports. You can just get so much information to just drive your business. It's everything that you need in order to make every decision that you want to make or not make, to be honest with you. So in the reporting can get as complex or as basic as you want it. There are some reports that I actually have Victoria design for us, because it's very specific information that pulls from so many different areas, and she does an amazing job for us. There are other reports that we just can easily go in there and just populate whatever we need. So it is a great tool. It is a tool. It's a great tool to run a business, but it's only as good as the people who are utilizing it and the people who understand how to use it. I don't know if I answered the question. I hope so.
Yes.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it from the, yep, perfect. Okay, so I don't think we have any other questions directly from the audience, but of course we'll share your contact information, and if anyone wants to reach out to you, they all have permission, correct?
Yes,
from you all. Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I do want to just add, you're supposed to be on that already. There we go. Just add last closing remarks. Adam, Corey, Lori, 30 seconds, piece of advice for owners and operators of agencies based on your experience for 2022 and 2023.
You broke up in the beginning. Was this any
Oh,
piece of
man,
advice or a
again?
specific one?
Yeah, just last closing remarks, 30 seconds, piece of advice for other agency owners and operators.
Yeah. Well, I think, certainly start each year with a plan. Take a look at the previous year's performance, how you did. Of course, if you are collecting data and have information at your disposal, that is going to be a lot easier in terms of planning, the coming year. But always try to start the year with a plan. Watch how that plan is progressing, how you're meeting those goals. Revisit that plan frequently. Don't be afraid to modify that plan if you're surpassing your goals or not surpassing your goals. Just make sure that you give yourself a roadmap, a guide to help lead your agency towards success, and incorporate your team in that. I think, as Corey was alluding to earlier, development and incorporating team for culture and for all, again, working the same way every day together, we have more chance of ultimately achieving our goals.
Thank you so much. Corey, one sentence advice?
I'm just going to echo what Lori said, and making sure that, the plan starts with a budget, and making sure that you're on top of your budget, so that if you're seeing that, hey, like there's always a best case, a worst case, and a mid case scenario, make sure that you have those scenarios built out so that if there is trouble brewing, that you can get ahead of that. And it's managing and making sure that the business is sustainable in the long term. So just create that plan, which includes the financial aspects of that plan, and if don't be afraid to make shifts if you need to. And it's easier to make them earlier on than it is to get yourself into a problem scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, last thought.
Last thought, running a business, I would say be patient, be flexible, understand when you're veering off track, and try to correct course. And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to do things the wrong way. And as long as you can admit to it and figure it out and get back on track, I think that's the best you can do. It's exciting. It's different every day. I love it. Wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, thank you all so much for coming on and speaking with our audience today. Thank you to our audience for attending and asking great questions. And if you want to, you can download the full industry report, which has even more insights. We'll talk about client management, project management in our next few webinars. If you have questions for Lori with Second Wind, feel free to reach her at LinkedIn or at her email. If you have any other questions about Function Point, you can contact us at sales@functionpoint.com. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.